Okay, so when you hear the word Renaissance, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably the Mona Lisa, right? Or maybe the Sistine Chapel. But those masterpieces, they're just one piece of a much, much bigger story. Today, we're going to explore the world behind the art, a time of explosive change and radical new ideas, where creativity wasn't just for galleries, but was in every single part of daily life. Let's start with this incredible object. Now, it's not a painting, it's a 16th century parade helmet. And get this, it was hammered from a single sheet of steel. Just look at that insane detail, the face of Medusa staring right out at us. This was way more than just protection for a battlefield. This was a stunning piece of sculpture designed to project pure power and prestige. So, what's the deal? How can one fancy helmet possibly tell us anything about the birth of the modern world? Well, believe it or not, this single object, with its mix of mythology, incredible craftsmanship, and just sheer showmanship, it's a perfect window into the forces that reshaped an entire continent. It tells the story of the Renaissance. Okay, so first things first. To really get the art, you gotta understand the world it came from. See, the Renaissance didn't just happen because a bunch of artists decided to paint differently one day. Nope. It was born from these huge social, technological, and economic shifts that were happening all across Europe. For centuries, European society was pretty rigid and mostly agricultural. But suddenly, cities were booming. International trade was creating vast new fortunes. And with all that money, a new and seriously powerful middle class, merchants, bankers, tradesmen, was rising up, challenging the old hereditary nobles for influence. And you can really see this perfect storm of change right here on this timeline. Suddenly, the fall of Constantinople sends this wave of classical Greek knowledge flooding into Italy. The printing press shows up, so ideas can now spread like wildfire. And at the exact same time, new tools like the magnetic compass are literally opening up the entire globe. I mean, think about it. Everything was changing all at once. All right, so we've got new technology, we've got new money, but this revolution went even deeper. It was philosophical. A powerful new way of seeing humanity's place in the universe was taking hold, and it changed everything. Just listen to this quote from the philosopher Pico della Mirandola. It captures the new spirit perfectly. "Thou, constrained by no limits, shalt ordain for thyself the limits of thy nature." I mean, stop and think about that for a second. How absolutely revolutionary is that? The idea that you, not fate, not just divine will, could shape your own destiny? This put humanity right at the center of the universe. So this new way of thinking, it was called humanism. And it wasn't about tossing religion out the window, not at all. But it was this profound shift in focus. Instead of just concentrating on divine will, humanists celebrated individual potential, human reason, and earthly achievements. And they looked back to the classical worlds of Greece and Rome for inspiration. And you can see this new obsession with the human form everywhere. Take this engraving by Pollaiolo. It actually became a kind of template for other artists. This thing is less about the battle itself and more like a scientific textbook on anatomy. Every single muscle and sinew is on display, almost like the body is this incredible, powerful machine. It's a total celebration of human physicality. And all this new thinking led to a whole new ideal. The universal man. What we now call the Renaissance man. Think of someone like Leon Battista Alberti. This guy wasn't just a painter. He was also a sculptor, an architect, a musician, and a poet. The goal was to master and celebrate every single facet of human achievement. Okay, but let's be real. This explosion of creativity wasn't free. Art costs a ton of money. So who was footing the bill? The answer reveals this fascinating web of power, faith, and a whole lot of social climbing. Well, because power was shifting, so were the people with the money. You still had your traditional patrons, of course, like the church and the old-school aristocracy, but now you've got this new, super wealthy middle class jumping into the game, and even professional organizations called guilds. And what's so fascinating here is that who was paying for the art completely changed what art got made. The church, obviously, wanted art to inspire faith. The aristocracy, they wanted art that just screamed power and status, like that crazy ceremonial hour we saw earlier. And that new middle class? Well, they were spending lavishly to make their homes beautiful and basically prove to everyone that they had finally arrived. And it wasn't just individuals. Even these big trade organizations got in on the action. The The powerful guilds, which represented everyone from painters to goldsmiths, commissioned huge works to decorate their halls and honor their patron saints. For them, art was a way for an entire profession to elevate its status. So this brings us to another huge change. This new art wasn't just for popes and princes. For really the first time, high-end art was moving out of the chapels and public squares and right into people's homes, becoming part of the fabric of daily life.
I mean, just look at this thing. It's an ornate broth bowl made of this tin-glazed earthenware called mahalaka. This would have been an incredibly luxurious gift for a new mother, celebrating a birth not just as a family moment, but as a dynastic one. It's turning a practical object into an absolute masterpiece.
Art was also about filling the home with entertainment and, just joy. This, for example, is a spinet, a popular little keyboard instrument, but look how exquisitely it's decorated. This wasn't meant for some grand concert hall. It was made for personal enjoyment, played purely for the love of music, probably by the women of the house. And this, to me, just shows how deep it all went, how art infused literally every part of the culture. I mean, even your local pharmacy was filled with art. These beautiful apothecary jars, they were actually used in hospitals to store medicines and herbs. It's a perfect example of how, during the Renaissance, beauty and function went hand in hand. Okay, so you've got new money, new ideas, new markets. What's the end result of all this? Well, it created a totally new kind of person, the artist as we think of them today. Now, artists didn't just wake up one day as famous geniuses. No, they started out as humble craftsmen. As a kid, you'd enter a workshop as an apprentice, doing chores like sweeping floors and grinding pigments. Then you'd slowly work your way up, learning every practical skill from a master before you could ever strike out on your own. But, and this is a huge but, their social status was going through this seismic shift. They were going from being anonymous craftsmen to being celebrated as individuals, as well as geniuses. Michelangelo's belief that he shared in a divine power to make man is a world away from the mindset of a medieval artisan. And you can see the culmination of that whole shift in a painting like this one, El Greco's View of Toledo. This is not a photographically accurate depiction of the city. It's a visionary, stormy, intensely personal interpretation. He literally moved buildings around just to heighten the drama. This is art as a vehicle for the artist's inner world, a tribute to his adopted city. So when you boil it all down, the Renaissance wasn't just a rebirth of old art. It was the birth of the modern artist. This idea that a single individual can possess a unique, singular creative vision is a legacy that we are still living with. And as you can see from this final question, in our new age of AI art, it's a legacy we are still very much grappling with today.